He was 67, tired, and afraid. Every morning, Carl sat by the window of his small farmhouse, coffee in hand, watching the fog roll over the hills like time itself, quiet, creeping, unstoppable. His breath was short these days. His chest felt tight just walking to the mailbox. And lately, he'd stopped joining his wife on their evening strolls. He didn't say why. He didn't have to. She noticed. So did the dog. One morning, after Carl skipped the walk again, his wife left a folded note on the kitchen counter. It said only this: "Please stay alive long enough to grow old with me." He folded it and tucked it in his shirt pocket, right next to his heart. He knew something had to change. But what? The doctor offered more pills. Another prescription. Another side effect. Carl said no. That day, he started digging for answers the old-fashioned way, asking the elders at church, watching quiet documentaries, flipping through his father's dusty health books. And what he found shocked him. It wasn't a secret formula. It wasn't a miracle cure. It wasn't even new. It was food. Simple, everyday food. The kind that once grew in their backyard garden. The kind his grandmother used to serve with her warm smile and wrinkled hands. The kind that didn't come in bottles. And when Carl changed what was on his plate, everything else began to change too. So what are these foods? And why don't doctors talk about them? Can 5 humble foods really do what medicine couldn't? This is the story of how thousands of seniors, just like Carl, reopened their arteries and reclaimed their energy, not with drugs, but with the quiet power of nature. Let's begin with the first one. 1. Beets, the root of new life. Carl hated beets as a kid. Their earthy taste made him gag. But now, with stakes higher than ever, he gave them a second chance. What he didn't know then was that beets are nature's nitric oxide boosters. Nitric oxide widens blood vessels, helping blood flow freely again, especially through aging arteries that have stiffened with time. Imagine a rusty garden hose in spring. Water trickles through. But when you gently clear the blockage and straighten the coils, the water gushes again. That's what beets did inside Carl. Every morning, he juiced 1 beet with an apple and half a lemon. Within weeks, his hands stopped feeling cold. His face regained its color. His breath didn't run out on him so quickly. Science quietly backs this up. Beets are loaded with nitrates, which your body turns into nitric oxide. This helps lower blood pressure, improve circulation, and revive areas of the body that have long been neglected, like Carl's legs, and even, yes, his intimacy. By month 2, Carl joined his wife for that evening stroll. The dog barked with joy. She cried. 2. Pomegranates, the fruit of clarity. In the fall, Carl remembered his father's old pomegranate tree. The fruit was stubborn to open, but inside, jewels. Red, glistening jewels. That memory came back as he read about pomegranates and how they clean the arteries like rain clearing a dusty windshield. They don't just reduce plaque. They help reverse it. Inside each seed lies a powerful mix of antioxidants that protect blood vessels from the kind of wear and tear time often brings. But here's the miracle. Studies show that regular pomegranate intake can reduce arterial plaque by up to 30% in just a year. Carl started with a glass a day. Not from concentrate. Not sugary juice. Real pomegranate. He'd sit on the porch, sipping slowly, watching the sun dip below the fields. His wife would join him. Sometimes they'd talk. Sometimes they didn't need to. One day, he looked at her and said, "I feel awake again." She smiled and nodded. She had felt it too. 3. Avocados, the gentle protector. Carl used to believe fat was bad. But avocados proved him wrong. Their creamy green flesh was once a luxury. Now, it became medicine. Unlike the greasy fats that clog arteries, avocados are full of healthy monounsaturated fats, fats that clean, not clog. They also reduce LDL, bad cholesterol, while raising HDL, the good kind that protects the heart. Carl swapped his morning toast's butter with mashed avocado and a pinch of sea salt. Simple. Satisfying. Healing. The results? His cholesterol numbers began to shift. But more importantly, so did his energy. He no longer dragged himself out of bed. His morning fog was lifting. His mind, once sluggish and weary, sharpened like the first frost of winter, crisp, clear, alive. He started reading again. He started whistling. His wife noticed. And so did the neighbors. 4. Garlic, the ancient healer. Carl's grandmother used to crush garlic cloves with the back of a spoon and add them to every stew. "Keeps the devil away," she'd whisper. She wasn't wrong. Garlic is nature's blood thinner. It breaks down fat, fights inflammation, and helps dissolve clots that silently build over time. Carl didn't like the smell. But he loved the results. He began eating a raw clove each morning, chopped finely, mixed with honey and lemon. It wasn't pleasant. But within weeks, his hands felt warmer. His head clearer. And one morning, climbing the stairs didn't steal his breath. He paused at the top, hand on the railing, eyes misty. It had been months since he felt that strong. He stood there for a while. Not because he needed to rest, but because he could. 5. Apples, the humble lifesaver. Of all the foods, this one surprised Carl the most. Apples. Not exotic. Not expensive. Just apples. Crisp. Sweet. Red. The fiber in apples, especially pectin, helps flush out cholesterol before it ever reaches the arteries. 1 apple a day? It's not just an old saying. It's a quiet truth. Carl began eating one every afternoon. No fanfare. Just a slow, mindful moment, peeling it, slicing it, sharing a wedge with the dog, handing the last bite to his wife. He felt cleaner inside. Lighter. It wasn't just what he ate. It was how he lived now. Mindfully. Gratefully. And so, Carl kept going. He didn't become a superhero. He didn't sprint marathons. But he walked again. He laughed more. He touched his wife's hand during dinner and felt something he hadn't in years, presence. And when winter came, he built a fire in the fireplace, put on his oldest sweater, and sat down beside her with 2 mugs of beet pomegranate tea. "I'm still here," he said softly. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "And I'm so glad," she whispered. Carl didn't find a miracle pill. He found something better. He found life again. Through 5 simple foods. The kind that don't just feed the body, but remind the soul what it feels like to be alive. Carl wasn't alone. In towns scattered across the country, stories like his were quietly unfolding. Not in hospital rooms. Not in clinics. But in kitchens. On porches. In gardens. Like Lillian in Arizona. She was 73, a retired teacher with a bookshelf taller than she was. Her grandchildren called her the brain. But in recent years, her heart had betrayed her. Her doctor warned of dangerous plaque buildup. She refused surgery. Instead, she picked up a notebook, scribbled down Carl's 5, and went to the farmer's market. She started with beets. She roasted them with rosemary and olive oil, painting her fingers purple. Her grandkids giggled when she held them up like monster claws. Then came the pomegranates. She learned to slice them underwater to avoid the mess. It became her quiet ritual: cut, crack, pluck. One ruby at a time. Avocados reminded her of California, where she once hiked with her late husband. She mashed them on toast and whispered, "This is for you, John." Garlic was trickier. But she found that roasting it turned it sweet. She spread it on crackers like butter. Her neighbors noticed she smiled more at the mailbox. And apples? They became her daily walk companions. One in the hand, one foot in front of the other. After 4 months, her follow-up appointment revealed something stunning. Her numbers had dropped. Not just by a little, but enough to avoid the stent. Her doctor stared at the chart, silent. Then he said, "Whatever you're doing, don't stop." She smiled, hugged her notebook, and replied, "I'm just eating like my grandma used to." Because sometimes, the path forward is hidden behind us. And for those willing to look back, to remember what real food tasted like, how slow life once was, healing isn't impossible. It's inevitable. But it's not just the body that heals. It's everything. The rhythms. The habits. The forgotten joys. When Carl visited his son for the holidays, he brought a wooden box filled with the 5 foods. He placed it on the kitchen table like an offering. His son raised an eyebrow. "Dad, what is this?" Carl smiled. "This is how I saved my life." They cooked together. Carl showed him how to roast beets. How to eat a raw clove of garlic without cursing. How to juice a pomegranate without looking like a crime scene. His son laughed. His grandkids joined in. That night, the whole family ate together, real food, real conversation, real time. No phones. No TV. Just heartbeats and stories and second servings. After dinner, Carl sat quietly by the fire. His son leaned in and said, "I haven't seen you this alive in years." Carl didn't speak. He just nodded. Because words couldn't capture it. Not the breath in his lungs. Not the rhythm in his chest. Not the warmth in his wife's eyes across the room. This wasn't about nutrition anymore. It was about presence. About waking up. About remembering that growing older doesn't mean growing weaker. It means growing wiser. Carl had nearly forgotten that. But 5 foods, and a note on the kitchen counter, brought him back. So if you're listening to this, and you've been feeling tired, if you've been told there's only one way forward and it involves a pill, a procedure, or giving up, if your evenings feel colder than they used to, there's something you should know. Your body hasn't given up on you. It's waiting for something gentle, Something real. Something ancient. The quiet kind of medicine that grows on trees and beneath the earth. Food that whispers, not shouts. Healing that feels like home. So try one food. Just one. And listen. Not just to your body, but to the silence after dinner. To the way your breath feels walking upstairs. To the way your partner squeezes your hand just a little tighter. Because those are the signs. Those are the real results. Not numbers on a chart. But life. Coming back. One bite at a time. Spring returned, as it always does. The air smelled of new grass and something sweeter, hope. Carl began planting a small garden behind the house. He didn't have much space, but he made room for the essentials: beets in one corner, garlic in another. A young pomegranate tree sat in the center, staked and hopeful. His wife chose the spot for the apple sapling. Said it needed sun. Said it would grow tall like their grandchildren. And avocados? Those would come later. But Carl had patience now. He wasn't in a rush anymore. Life, he had learned, blooms better when you stop forcing it. He'd rise early, sometimes before dawn, and walk barefoot on the dew-covered grass. The coolness reminded him he was still here. Still connected. One morning, as the fog lifted from the hills, he sat on the old porch swing and thought about the time he almost gave up. How easy it would have been to surrender to the pills. To accept the shortness of breath, the fading strength, the dimming light. But 5 foods had whispered to him, "Try again." So he did. And now, things were different. He no longer feared the future. He looked forward to it. To birthdays. To long phone calls. To morning birds and quiet evenings and the way the moonlight danced on his wife's silver hair. He thought about legacy, not the kind made of money or fame, but the kind made of memory. Of recipes passed down. Of traditions reborn. Of healing that lives through generations. His grandson came to visit that week. A curious, bright-eyed boy who asked too many questions. Carl didn't mind. They stood in the garden, side by side, small hand and large. "What's that one?" the boy asked, pointing to the beet greens. "Medicine," Carl answered. The boy scrunched his nose. "Does it taste good?" "Not always," Carl laughed. "But it makes you strong." "Like a superhero?" "Like a grandfather," Carl said, kneeling down. He pulled a small beet from the soil and handed it over. Dirt clung to it like a badge of honor. The boy inspected it like treasure. And in that moment, Carl saw everything he had fought for. Not just his own health. But this. The chance to pass on something more than stories. To pass on life. So if you're hearing this today and wondering if it's too late, if you've missed your moment, if your best days are behind you, they're not. You haven't missed a thing. Because nature is patient. Healing is patient. And your body, no matter how old, how tired, how worn, still remembers how to heal. All it needs is your permission. So eat the beet. Drink the pomegranate. Slice the apple. Spread the avocado. Crush the garlic. Not because a doctor told you to, but because deep down, you know it's time. Time to return to the roots. Time to feel your breath again. Time to walk, to love, to live, not in fear, but in faith. Because food is more than fuel. It's memory. It's medicine. It's a quiet promise that you're not finished yet. You are still becoming. Still healing. Still growing. And the best chapters of your story may be the ones you haven't written yet. So take the first bite. The rest will follow. And when the sun sets on another ordinary day that feels a little more extraordinary, you'll know why. Because you chose life. One food at a time.